Join our free WhatsApp group to get daily latest updates. It's totally free.
Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman as the woman interviews the man about a job. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, my name's Dominic. I'm here for a job interview at the beach office.
Hello, Dominic. I'm Mrs. Adams. I'm interviewing you today. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
Now, you've applied for the seasonal job of beach cleaner. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
I've had a look at your CV, and it seems you're the kind of person we're after. And I'm happy that you've dressed smartly. So really, all I need to do is tell you a little about the job and see if you're happy with what you'll have to do. First of all, though, I need to take some details for the payroll office, if that's all right.
Of course.
To begin with, I need your full name and address.
My name's Dominic Fuller, and I live at 34 Queen's Crescent, Stanmore. The postcode's ST5932.
Thanks. Could you just spell Fuller for me?
Of course, it's Fuller.
And when were you born?
On the 2nd of September 1998.
Thank you. Now, have you done any work before this year?
No, I'm a student, and so this will just be my summer job.
Now, do you know your national insurance number?
I actually brought it with me. It's FL63852H.
Good. Do you have a P45 from a previous job?
No, I'm afraid not. My last job was so long ago that I've lost the P45.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. Next is your phone number. Can I have a mobile number for you that we can use?
Yes, my number's 07535 391 288.
Right, I've got that. Are you happy to occasionally use your phone while at work for work purposes?
That's fine. I have unlimited minutes with my phone contract.
Good. Now, how would you like to be paid?
Actually, I would prefer in cash, but I don't know if that's possible.
Yes, it is. You'll need, though, to come to me here at the central office every Friday after the evening shift to pick up and sign for your wages. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, I'll tell you a little more about the job and ask a few more questions.
Good.
So, you'll be required to work twice a day, 7 days a week. The morning shift is from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and the evening shift is from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Do those times cause any problems for you?
No, that should be fine. On Fridays, I have a lecture that finishes at 6:30, but I should be able to make work on time.
I'll let your supervisor know about that in case you're delayed sometimes, but try and be on time if you can.
It should be fine.
As you know, the beach here is around 10 kilometres and different teams start work at different locations. Do you have transport to get to the different parts of the beach?
I've got my bicycle, so I'll ride to the places. I don't think the bus service goes to all the places where you might need me.
No, it doesn't. What the job entails is to clear the sand of any rubbish in the evening and early morning. Unfortunately, people often leave a lot of trash, whether they are lying on the beach during the day or walking or having a party at night.
Yes, it's a shame, isn't it?
I'm afraid so. Now, a lot of things you might have to pick up could be dirty or sharp. Because of this, we require that you wear gloves to protect yourself. We will supply these to you, as they must be worn at all times when cleaning on the beach. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Good. It affects our insurance if you don't wear them, and also we want to make sure that you're safe.
I understand. It makes perfect sense anyway. I don't want to hurt myself. Is there anything else I need to wear?
Whatever you want, really. Long trousers are best, and you'll need to look at the weather in order to decide. Remember, the evenings can get cold too.
Okay.
You might also find valuables that have been lost on the beach. We ask you to hand these in when you find them, as losing things can cause a lot of distress to people. We get lots of calls to our lost property office, and people are very happy when we say we found what they've lost.
Yes, I would imagine they would be very happy.
Now, I'll just get you to sign this form to say that you confirm everything on it, and then let's go outside and meet some of the crew who are working this afternoon.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2. Part 2.
You will hear a woman presenting an information talk at a museum on Australian canals. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully to the information talk and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Australian Museum of Canals. One frequently asked question as soon as people arrive here is, are there any canals in Australia? The answer is of course yes. We do have some Australian canals, but they are not suitable for cruising holidays. After I have finished speaking, you'll be free to wander around the museum and see all the exhibits. Unfortunately, our cafe is being refurbished due to a fire risk, and so that is closed for a couple of weeks. There are, however, some drinks and snack machines that can be used temporarily. Each exhibit has information given on notice boards, but there is also the chance to use the complimentary guide phones, which are available at the desk next to the entrance. There is a bin next to the exit for the phone's return at the end of your visit, next to the charity box, where you can leave a few dollars if you want for the upkeep of the museum. In 10 minutes, there's a 20-minute film shown in the small movie theatre located next to the bathrooms. This is repeated half an hour after the start of each showing, and shows a fascinating history of the development of canals in Australia. Make sure you get there a few minutes early in order to guarantee a seat for yourself. Finally, if you have any feedback to provide us, we have now removed our feedback box that was at the exit. We've entered the 21st century and visitors can leave feedback on our website on a dedicated form. Please don't email, as we have too much spam and feedback is often lost if we're contacted in this way.
You now have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the information talk and answer questions 15 to 20.
So, let me now tell you a little about some of our Australian canals. The first I'd like to mention is Berry's Canal, which was also the first canal to be established in Australia. Alexander Berry had chosen for himself some land on which to found an estate near the Hunter River. While establishing himself on the property that the government granted him, a boat carrying a friend of his was seeking a passage into the river from a tributary adjoining his property. The boat was overturned and the friend was drowned, an accident that Berry bitterly regretted. To allow vessels to travel more safely, Berry had a short canal cut between the river and the tributary, so creating a new island which, unfortunately for Berry, the government later refused to regard as part of his grant. The canal, which was 191 metres long, was completed in 12 days. Later on, because of the weight of traffic on the Berry Canal, the Clark Canal was cut, running almost parallel to the Berry. As traffic on the Berry slowly subsided, the Clark Canal was used less and less, and it was actually filled in following the Second World War, as the land was needed for other uses. Next, I'd like to talk about the 4-kilometre-long Alexandra Canal, which is one of the main tributaries of the Cooks River, today located near the Sydney Airport. Originally, it was a narrow, winding, partially tidal creek into which wool washers, tanneries and chemical manufacturers discharged their effluent. Between 1887 and 1900, the creek was excavated to form the Alexandra Canal, named in honour of Princess Alexandra. It's a rare example of a 19th century canal construction, being one of only 2 navigable channels built and still extant in New South Wales. Its construction by unemployed relief workers during the 1890s depression was an impressive achievement, taking over a decade to complete. Built in 1910, there is also an interesting subsidiary canal that joins the Alexandra Canal near the airport. This canal is known as the Cook Canal and was built to link the workshops and construction yards that service the traffic on the Alexandra Canal. During the excavation of the Cook Canal, dugong bones, Aboriginal axes and the remains of an ancient forest below the low tide level were discovered. These findings have helped scientific understanding of sea level changes along the eastern seaboard and the antiquity of Aboriginal presence in the Sydney area. Next is the Hawthorn Canal. After much discussion in the 1890s, a navigable canal from the Parramatta River to Marion Street in Sydney was opened. A commuter ferry service began in 1903, with numerous ferries leaving the Harbourfield Wharf daily for the city. However, this ferry service was soon abandoned due to the sedimentation of the canal and competition from nearby train services. Today, the canal is a local beauty spot and an area where many people ramble and exercise their dogs. Finally, I'd like to mention the Sale Canal, which is the longest canal in Australia. About 5 kilometres long, it was dug in the period 1886 to 1890 to connect the town of Sale with the Gippsland Lakes and thence to the Bass Strait. The Sale Canal is the only canal in Australia that has double canal lanes, which allows for unhindered traffic both ways.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3. Part 3.
You will hear 2 students discussing their psychology course with a tutor. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hello, Dr. Peters. Can we have a moment of your time? Hello, Daniel. Hello, Georgia. Yes, I'm free. What can I do for you?
It's to do with next year. As you know, we've finished our first year of the psychology course, and we've got some questions about next year's course and what we should do.
You're both doing the BSc, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Good. That means you will now have a sound foundation for understanding the basic principles of psychological theory and analysis used in social sciences. Did you do plenty of experiments?
Yes, we did loads, especially in behavioral neuroscience.
Well, in your second year, you'll cover material in depth from the remaining key areas of psychology, which are cognitive psychology and perception, developmental psychology, and social psychology.
Will we continue to learn about research methods?
Oh yes, you'll need that in preparation for the final year project.
Will the third year be similar?
In your third and final year, you'll widen your knowledge in clinical psychology. We will also offer a wide selection of modules, allowing you to specialize in whichever area of psychology you are particularly interested in. This can include health psychology, clinical psychology, educational psychology, social psychology, developmental psychopathology, forensic psychology, perception, and many more.
I heard that students can also choose something outside psychology.
That's right. Psychology is so multidisciplinary that people often want to combine it with studies of other areas of society. We therefore also permit our students to choose up to 2 options outside of psychology, facilitating this interdisciplinary study.
And do you think that this helps students with getting a job after their course?
Well, although some psychology graduates become professional psychologists, many others go on to work in related fields, and the other things that psychology students study can help a lot. Psychology involves the application of a reasoned approach, problem-solving and manipulation of data, all of which are scientific aspects that can be useful tools for careers in healthcare, law enforcement, finance, IT, and research. Industry research has proved this, and also job descriptions for vacant positions also regularly list these qualities as required or preferred skills. Students' knowledge of motivation, their ability to critically analyze a problem, formulate a considered response, create an argument, and generate new ideas lend themselves well to careers in the creative industries, the legal sector, government administration, and education.
So you think there are lots of things open to us?
Oh, yes.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
So, Dr. Peters, do we have to write a dissertation in year 2 or year 3?
We call it a research paper, and it's in year 3. All BSc psychology students must also choose a topic and research question for their research paper. When they have decided on their topic and research question, they will need to present their ideas to a member of the psychology teaching staff so that someone can agree to be their supervisor. The research paper is the culmination of 3 years of research training and will constitute a valuable piece of psychological research, the best example of which will have a prize awarded. It's hard work and not much time for holidays.
So how is the study for the research paper done?
Teaching in this unit is done via individual meetings. These contact hours are recommended to be around 15 hours. The main part of the study, though, will be you on your own, and this is recommended to be around 135 hours.
That's a lot.
Oh, yes. In order to succeed, students need to show a considerable degree of self-discipline. A lot of research and reading will need to be done, and you'll need to be able to summarize key theoretical and empirical findings and identify how future research can develop and address key questions in the area that you choose.
Do many students struggle with the research paper?
At some point, most students have varying degrees of difficulty, but that's why it's a key part of the course. By overcoming the problems, students develop significant personal and study skills. Oh, I forgot to add that you need to include a literature review, which is an important part of a research paper.
What does that entail?
Its aim is to help you to read and write broadly about theory and research related to your empirical project. You will have to review and summarize existing research and papers in the subject you have chosen.
Well, thanks, Dr. Peters. I think that's enough to be going on with.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Peters.
You're welcome. See you later.
Yes, goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear part of a conservation lecture on aviation pollution in the UK. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good evening. In this environmental protection lecture, we're going to discuss the pollution concerns created by the United Kingdom's aviation industry. Last year, over 200 million passengers passed through mainland UK airports. This was a return to growth following a decline in passenger numbers and air transport movements over the previous 4 years. Forecasts predict that this will rise by 25% over the next 5 years and by 50% over the next 10 years. Airport operations are an important factor in the UK's economy, for tourism, imports, exports and business. However, these benefits must be weighed against the impact air travel is having on the quality of life of increasing numbers of people and on the local and global environments. Noise and air pollution, both from aircraft and from airport ground operations, are a problem for those who live, work and study around airports. The most immediate impact of aircraft is noise, whether it is the regular rumble of international jets or the buzz of microlights and light aircraft on sunny afternoons. The noise from airborne aircraft is related to speed. Any fast-moving components, such as propellers and compressor blades, generate noise, as do the exhaust gases of jets. Aircraft are also responsible for an increasing proportion of air pollutant emissions, both at local and global levels. Aircraft engines generally combust fuel efficiently, and jet exhausts have very low smoke emissions. However, pollutant emissions from aircraft are increasing with rising aircraft traffic. In addition, a large amount of air pollution around airports is exacerbated by surface traffic. ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, has fixed international standards for smoke and certain gaseous pollutants for newly produced large jet engines, and it also restricts the venting of fuel. Reductions in emissions from aircraft engines have also generally been lower in recent years than in other sectors, where technologies such as exhaust gas recirculation have been employed. Aviation is also a significant source of carbon dioxide emissions and presents a major threat to UK government targets. This is for 3 reasons. Firstly, aviation is predicted to grow significantly, and secondly, emissions at altitude are thought to have a greater effect on climate change than those at ground level. And finally, there is no practical alternative to kerosene-fueled jet engines currently on the horizon. As other sectors reduce emissions, Aviation is therefore likely to become responsible for a far larger proportion of global climate change emissions. The UK government is therefore seeking to reduce the environmental and social harm arising from aviation through a balanced programme of progressive introduction of improved technology, better operational practice and demand management. However, successful action to reduce the environmental and social harm caused by aviation will require cooperation between the UK and other countries. The UK government should adopt a leading and active role in international debate, particularly in partnership with the European Union, and should encourage the development of radical and innovative solutions.
You now have some time to look at questions Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions.
The emission gases from civil aviation that cause the most worries are carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, and nitrogen dioxide, though there are of course particulate emissions such as sulfates and, most importantly, black carbon. Aircraft black carbon emissions contribute to the greenhouse effect, but because there is almost no accurate historical data of black carbon emitted by aircraft at cruise, its significance is not fully understood. For the majority of aircraft engines, the only black carbon-related measurement currently available is smoke number, which is a filter-based optical method designed to measure near-ground black carbon presence. This, however, does not measure aircraft emissions at cruise level. Passenger jets fly in the stratosphere, which is above the troposphere, the atmosphere layer going from the ground up to around 30 kilometers. The extremely wide mesosphere is above the stratosphere, but no passenger jets go that high. Jets, of course, spend most of their journeys at their cruise altitudes, and so it's important to develop a method that measures how much black carbon and other emissions are left behind aircraft and what their effects are at that altitude. There is a technique just developed known as first-order approximation, which approximates black carbon mass emissions at cruise level, but the rough nature of the measurements makes them unreliable, and it has already been proven that the measurements underestimate the emission levels. UK aviation authorities are therefore currently being urged to find out ways of accurately measuring the levels and effects of black carbon emitted at cruise altitudes.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.